the priorities for 2012 are actually all interrelated. The way I see it now, it looks like climate change is playing an important role in the decision on the priorities. For instance, there is the food security, strengthening it. That's related to food. That's related to supply. I mean, to climate change. So also establishing reliable supply chains. You know, when there's an earthquake or a disaster, the supply that goes into production is affected. As I said, kamukha nangyari sa Thailand, bumaha, nasira yung supply chain ng mga kotse, yung mga parts, di ba, para pagbuo ng kotse, naapektuhan. Sa Fukushima din sa Japan, di ba, na bumagsak yung production ng Japan nung panahon na yon. So, ito ay lahat tawag nito, dikit-dikit itong mga issues na ito. Tapos, siyempre, nandun pa rin yung trade and investment liberalization. Siyempre, sa paningin ng mga ibang gumagawa ng mga producers, tsaka yung mga investors, mas madali kung madali ang regulasyon at hindi papalit-palit at hindi masyadong mahigpit. Kasi kung hindi, naapektuhan yung kanilang investments at siyempre, pumapasok din dito yung issue ng tariff, kung magkano yung pinapatong nating revenue, tariff, no, yung taxes sa pag-angkat ng mga produkto. And ultimately, of course, kung lahat tayo ay pantay-pantay ng halimbawa ng ating mga tariff rates, mas madaling mag-business. You know, the region will more or less become integrated. It's as though we are not just one country. We are many countries doing business in a particular region. So yun, generally. And then, of course, nakikita nila na, para umasenso ang business, kailangan talaga may innovation, yung mga bagong produkto, new products, new processes. And then, right now, we are lucky that we have so much technology that we can use to improve our production and to improve our products. So those are the priorities right now. Okay.
Also including the gender, you talk about yung sa green growth po.
Yung green growth kasi kasama, as I said, climate change yung pinaka-root, no? That's the overarching influence also. When we say green growth, I think people know that production can cause pollution. So they're now looking at how can we improve production so that it doesn't destroy the environment. That's why there's a lot of discussion right now on environmental goods and services. Ito yung mga produktong nakakatulong na makababa sa pollution. Like for instance, solar panels is one of them. Wind blades is one of them. And there are, I'm sure, I am not familiar with all the products, but somehow there are 300 products around the world that can be considered green products. So they want to open up markets for these products.
Ma'am, yung sa biotechnologies naman, the use of biotechnologies increasing production and volume po naman.
That issue could come in the strengthening of food security. Because kasi ang food security hindi lang naman yung, well, okay, of course it covers self-sufficiency. Dapat tayo akmang-akma lang, di ba? Kasi we have to consider population growth. So people are looking at that, yung biotechnology. But at the same time, tinitingnan din natin from the point of view of affordability. Kasi merong ibang produkto na, halimbawa, natatanda yung 2007-2008, biglang umakyat yung presyo ng bigas. At that time, ang isip ng iba parang na-manipulate yung supply. So, ngayon pinag-uusapan, as much as possible, dapat yung supply continuous at walang dapat mag-export cap. Ay, yung mga traders, dapat din nila sabihin, pipigilin namin ng pag-export, pabayaan namin, bumaba ng supply nyo para aakyat yung presyo, tapos doon kami magtitinda sa inyo. Yun parang gusto nating iwasan yun eh. So may usapan na as much as possible, yung food security should revolve around the issues of accessibility. Dapat madali tayong makaangkat. Affordability, dapat kaya nating bilhin. Third, it should be safe, meaning it's not contaminated. And then of course, basically, we have to work on self-sufficiency also so that we don't have to be subjected to all these, changes, to this volatility in food security. there's an ongoing working group on terrorism. Hindi yan nawawala, no? Kasi that's always a threat somewhere. Pero hindi na inaakyat yun sa senior officials, neither at the ministerial level.
Na meron din po mention dito the participation of women dun sa...
Oh, yeah. Women and innovative growth. Because kamukha sa atin, di ba? Kasi, okay, everybody assumes that 49% of the population, of course, is composed of women. And they say production, even in agriculture, sometimes majority are women in some economies. But for some of us, like the Philippines, we see the role of women in small and micro enterprises. And then they said, if we can have these women's enterprises be involved in innovation, because sometimes innovation starts small, okay, and then later on then if you can scale it up. We're looking at scaling up actually, because eventually this innovation thing can be scaled up, and then you come out with a new product that will really go all over the Asia Pacific. But for us, for the women and the economy and innovative growth, we are working on that. I think we might use that one of the priorities during our hosting in 2015.
Can you elaborate a little more on the solving the trade and investment barriers, lowering that barriers?
Actually, when we have to go into lowering the barriers on trade and investment, we're going into regulatory convergence, meaning regional convergence of our regulations, the way we do business. If you notice, there's a report on, we call it EODB, Ease of Doing Business. And that's why the economists take a look at the ratings on whether regulations are easily managed or they don't change midstream. So it's more into regulation, and then into again in trade in terms of tariffs. Now, when it comes to services, it's in terms of, can a professional move from one economy to another, to provide service. They're also discussing that. But that's a next generation. In a way, it's a long-term issue. We're not yet there, but they're looking at that already.
Ma'am, sa talks with the President, among the leaders, what would be the really top topics?
I think our President is very much interested in food security. Yeah. And I know he's also interested in, I think, he might get into innovation and growth, because, but I'm not sure about this one, but I know that we are into it already, because I know our Department of Science and Technology is looking at innovative ways of doing business, and also how we can have simple inventions become commercialized. This is what we call innovation and growth, because if an invention is commercialized, then it's one way of producing money also, especially if it goes into production.
So this one, food security and the
Innovative growth, yeah. But as I said, it depends, because we gave these four topics, and then the APEC people also have their own priorities, more or less the same. But it's up to the President, ultimately, during the retreat, what he will talk about. And the retreat is a real retreat, meaning sila lang. Walang ibang tao doon, kundi dalawang isa na, pinuno lang ng bawat ekonomiya ang nandoon. Silang tatlo nandito, tsaka yung APEC International. Kasi mag-host tayo ng APEC sa Enero this year, 2013 pala. So we'll have an APEC hosting in Metro Manila. I think it's about towards the end of January. So you might wish to do an interview on this. Yeah, because we're going to invite all the APEC Business Advisory Councils to be in Manila. And I think that's their time to show what we have done and what we are doing in terms of promoting, good trade and the economy. The APEC 2015, it's a huge event, because it's not just one meeting. It's a series of meetings, which will start in January. And then we have 4 senior officials meetings. We have maybe 5 ministerial meetings at different times of the year. We have maybe 45 working group meetings on various issues from health, to food, to even sometimes, who knows, water might be an issue, you can never tell, and we're looking also at fisheries, marine, um, logging, e- everything that refers to the economy. But but because of this, so we have to organize at the cabinet level, and there will be somebody, some kind of executive who will make sure that all the preparations are going on according to schedule, and we will start next year. Starting next year, we'll already go into deciding where will they be hosted. Remember, we will not just host in Manila. We'll go to Clark, we'll go to Cebu, all different venues. And then we'll make sure that the hotels are ready, the even the cultural presentations are ready, and then the infrastructure is ready, the agenda priorities are ready. We're discussing with our own security, no, I'm sorry, not security, economic agencies to decide what will be our priorities. Some of these priorities in Russia will be carried over to our own, like innovative growth, education, the role of education in innovation. That's one of them. And of course, women and the economy. That could be one of them. Fisheries, oceans, because that's where our food comes from. And that's part of our food security, in fact. We're going into the marine resources and all that. Okay.
Did you get any special order from the President on this APEC summit? Did the President give any
I
special
think
directives?
I think what I know is that he when he decided actually that we host, it was a big leap of faith, I think, for him to trust us. But I think he knows that his government is doing everything really to accelerate growth. So when we told him, I think we can handle 2015, he said, okay, he said, then I'm with you. So in effect, that was almost like saying, work on all the issues that we can work on, from infrastructure to telecommunications to even, the greening of the city. It's not just green growth, it's also greening of the city. We're already talking about how can we green Metro Manila, how can we green the venue. So we're excited because this will give an impetus to all the things we're trying to do. Now we can say, come on, we have to do this, we have to work on it faster because this will contribute to our hosting in 2015. Other 21. So it's really very complicated. We're still trying to find out if there's a common free time for both. And the schedules keep on moving. And some of the leaders are not yet around. I mean, some of them also, they're still working with their own ministries of foreign affairs to figure out how many can be fitted in. So when it comes to this, I think other people might be in the loop more than I am.